Welcome to Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. How's everyone doing this morning? So good to be here. So good to be with you today. If you're catching this live, say hi where you're from. I'd love to see you. Excuse me. Sorry. So today's episode is brought to you by Kenny Ingersoll TV. Again, Kenny Ingersoll TV. Thank you for that sponsorship. So got couple announcements. As always, we got several events going on. We have some wealth and mindset training. We have a book collaboration. We have handful. So IngersollEnterprises.weebly.com/events. Please go check it out. A lot of great stuff coming up. Want to make you aware of. Very excited for it. So, and again, if you need to grant permission, we're doing this live via Restream. Please grant Restream permission so we can see your comments and see who they're coming from. Otherwise, it says from Facebook user or something like that. So we want to see who's making the comments so we can acknowledge it properly and address you correctly. But yeah, give you Restream. I'd love to see you on here. I'm excited for today's guest. Been looking forward to this. I've got some notes over here on my other screen, so that's why I am looking over here right now to make sure I get this. So get this correctly. Now this guest is awesome. I met her through a mutual connection, and we'll get to that in a second. And that just brings up another point, and we'll get to this when I bring on the guest. This point, so I'll get back to that. But this person is a founder of multiple businesses, an investor, a certified business coach, NLP practitioner, and certified fitness instructor. This person is passionate about learning and improving. Their greatest joy is helping others succeed, and they believe mindset is the key to success in all areas of life. So I wanted to make sure I read that right. Now, there's several key points that we're going to address on this, but I haven't given the name of this person. I might give a little bit of a clue. This person is also a book writer. Maybe this will give you a clue as to who this person is. Might help a little bit. Please help me welcome Lori Rehn. Lori,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm doing quite well. How about you?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you for being here. I know we've talked about this for a couple months.
It took a long time to get on your show, so thank you very much for including me.
So no, thank you. So I want to touch right off the bat, how saying yes in life can lead to great opportunities. Because we connected through Brian K. Wright.
Yes.
And if
I threw that in, Kenny. Yes.
Exactly, right there. And in fact, just to give him another plug, because he's such an awesome man. If you haven't got this book, go get it. Brian K. Wright, Greatest Lessons I Learned from Mom. And he's the one that connected us. And if I hadn't said yes to that opportunity, I wouldn't have known Lori, and we wouldn't be here today with her on. So say yes to opportunity. I didn't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know what this conversation is going to look like at the end, but it's going to be awesome. So I love that. And I'm grateful that you said yes to the invitation to be here today. So thank you for that.
I appreciate the invitation. So
let's jump right in. with your book.
I like my book.
What was that?
I said I like my book.
That'd be an interesting conversation if you didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
I was reading through it, and I didn't see anywhere that had a permission slip that someone gave you permission to write this. So who gave you permission to write this?
I gave myself permission to write that.
I love that.
I said yes to the book.
I love that. So often we look for Facebook's approval, or who am I to write a book, or there's 10,000 other books that talk about money. Why should I write my book? So why did you write your book?
I wrote my book because I had done a Facebook challenge where I took a 7-day challenge and I spoke about same subject for 7 days. And I thought, and it was basically the premise for this book. It was all about, I know a lot about business. I've owned businesses for over 30 years. So I've got a bit of experience behind me. And when I did the Facebook challenge, I thought, this would be a great book. And then it just so happens that my group of friends, because everybody I know tends to be a little bit of an overachiever, they all had books, and not to be outdone, I had to have a book. So I now have a book. And it was really, really, really good to give another shout out to Brian. I had a lot of content. I know a lot of what I'm saying. I'm not a proficient writer yet. I practice writing every day, but to get the book done in a timely fashion and not go back and forth with an editor, he took all of my content. He took my he took my outline and he made sense. So if anybody's ever looking for help with their book, I would highly recommend him. He was a joy to work with.
Oh yeah, and from as much as I've known him, 100%.
Yeah.
And I've been working on a book myself and stuff, and I find myself, constantly looking for that mentorship. And Brian is such a phenomenal resource, phenomenal guy to get to know, and it's just amazing what he does, and you could tell he cares about it, and he cares about the people he helps,
Mm-hmm.
and wants to help because he's passionate about it. So I love that. And you mentioned in the book and just now that you've owned businesses for several years. What got you started in that? What kind of led you down that direction? How did you find? If you've owned a business for 30 years, I imagine you enjoy doing that business.
So I've owned multiple businesses, and I've in the industry I'm in now. I had been in the industry, sold that company, was coaching full time, started another products company. So my company sells industrial chemicals. And the reason I started in business for myself is I was always a top rep, a top manager, but I didn't always agree with what the owners or the management was doing. And so I put my money where my mouth was. If I was going to say I could do a better job, well, why not take the leap and start a company? And I've been fortunate. I've been very successful with the companies I've owned. The first company I owned was an absolute disaster. That's when I was 20 and had two other friends with me, but it was a good learning experience, right? So then that's when I went into work for someone else and discovered I'm just going to go ahead and do this on my own. And that has been an opportunity to learn and grow every minute of every day. It's been great, but owning a business is not for the faint of heart. I mean, there's always something new to do and learn, no matter how well you're set up. Think of just 2020. You couldn't even imagine something like that will come down the pipeline. Then we had 2021. 2021, for those of us in the product world, who actually have physical products we sell, it was worse than 2020 than 2020, simply for the fact that we couldn't get our hands on the products we needed to provide to our clients. And 2022 is shaping up to be very interesting with all the price increases on the product end of it. But you just got to keep a good attitude, keep moving forward. I pour into my team as far as what we're doing, making sure there's good communication, can continue with positive mindset coaching for everybody, and that's how you move forward and you continue to grow and be excellent and say yes. Don't give up. Say yes.
Awesome. And I like how you said that those past experiences and even what you're going through today are opportunities to learn. Even in businesses that and job opportunities that may not have quite worked out. You know, um, you could look at them as failures, or you could look at them as growth opportunities. So I love how you brought up that aspect of it. And also I love how you pointed out that um, you might have been top over here, but the the way things were done wasn't quite aligned with who you are and how you wanted to. So you made that shift. And like you mentioned, it was, you know, it could have been big, scary shift, not sure what was going to happen. You leave the security of that job, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you move to more what aligns with you, and I love how you pointed that out. And I love how you were able to recognize that for yourself and make those moves and give yourself permission to do that.
Absolutely. I think that's one of my best strengths is I will whine. Don't get me wrong. I will whine and complain. I'm human, but I don't stay there. If I find myself repeating the same complaint, either there's got to be a mind shift change, more education, or an actual physical change, like you just talked about, moving careers, moving to a different state, changing a relationship, whatever it is. If you find yourself complaining, it's time to take a look and see why. Is it you? Are you in a bad place? Is it the people you're around? What's the reason? Because life is hard enough. We don't need to be complaining all the time. We need to enjoy ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, um, and it's possible to enjoy the journey, enjoy yourself through those hardships.
Mm-hmm.
You could find joy, you could find some good in any situation. The supply chain limitations that you mentioned in 2021, you know, or the price increase on products. A lot of people talk about gas price increase, and while I don't like it, I'm not going to let it stop me from enjoying the activity that I'm planning to go do. I'm not going to let it stop me from filling up my car to drive to California to go on the cruise that I went on a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let that control me. Yes, I don't like it, but I'm still going to find a way to enjoy and make good out of what I was planning to do, make good out of the situation.
Mm-hmm. That's the only way to do it. Yep, 100%. Yeah, that's what with the supply chain, it's teaching me a lot of lessons on how to. I don't want to say pivot, but plan even better. I always thought I managed my inventory well, and then I found out with supply chain, you've got to completely rethink the way that you carry inventory. And so I'm taking that as a lesson, and I just doing the best we can for our clients, doing the best we can for our sales team, and not letting anything stop us. We're working a little bit with our vendors as much as we can to get better pricing, but it is what it is right now. We're in the strangest inflationary time of our lives. And so we're getting a good education. We're learning a bunch right now. And anytime I can learn, I'm happy. I might not be happy at the moment, but after I examine all the experience and hey, this is where we're ending up, and this is the lesson that was extracted. Preserving the lesson, that's an NLP uh, mindset. Is if you can preserve the lesson, you've won, no matter what, in a good or bad, and that's awesome. And I
That is
teach
awesome.
myself that. Yeah, every day. What did I learn? Because every day right now is fraught with opportunity to be stressed out. So if I'm stressed out, I'm human. I'm going to be stressed out. I've taught myself, and it took a while. It probably took a better part of a year to every day write that down, focus on it. And now it's just automatic. Like, okay, what am I learning through this? Okay, how can we do this better? How can we move forward? What am I learning? And so there's very few days where I'm overwhelmed and like that super tight, anxious and angry that we can get because we have no control. Now it's like, all right, what am I learning? And that training of your mind is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, it took a while for me to realize and accept that, schooling and learning doesn't stop after school.
No.
And education doesn't necessarily mean going to school. Nothing against going to school and stuff, but you're always learning. You're always changing. Reading this book, I'm learning. Reading one of Brian's books, sorry, I'm learning. And I could read these books 100 times and I'm still learning. I could be able to repeat the words out of memory, but I'm still learning. And especially when you combine that with putting them together. For example, you learn something out of this, then you go read this, and something else clicks that wouldn't have before. So you're always learning and growing. And you mentioned learning and pouring belief and the mindset shift of those you work with. How has that impacted not only you but everyone you work with, like during the supply chain factor?
That's when I started. So as a business owner, I will give all the tools I can to my team, but at the end of the day, they're my employees. And so they're not going to have the same buy-in, say, as somebody who's coming to work with you, who's actually seeking you out to improve their life, right? And so what I've done is I've started Zoom calls that are just about mindset, and I bring in other speakers. And it has helped quite a bit, because when it's just coming from me, especially when the sales team last year was stressful when we couldn't get products. So imagine sales team, they're 100% commission. They don't get paid unless we ship products. And there was time when we barely could ship products because we didn't have them. And mind you, we have over 400 catalog items. So we have a lot of stuff. But what the customers wanted, we weren't able to get. Nobody was. The sales team was frustrated, though, quite frankly, and blaming me. And instead of freaking out, I had to take a minute and say, okay, I got to put myself in their shoes. They're not making as much money as they need to pay their bills. What can I do to at least help? So what I've done on a business level is we carry more inventory than you typically would. However, that's how we ship products regularly now. And then on a personal development, I've been pouring more in. And everything I'm doing now is voluntary. If you want to come to this meeting to learn and grow, you can. And I would say 90% of the sales team shows up, and I appreciate that. And they have shared after the fact that the tools we're giving them are helping them reach higher sales numbers. So that's how I had to make the pivot. And I also had to switch from, I can't tell them, I have to invite and see if anybody on the team is interested. We're there to support. If they're not interested, that's cool too. No judgment either way.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson as a business owner, as someone that that kind of wants to help, and it has to be done on their terms.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so hard. Like, this is so good, you just have to have it. And it's like, no,
exactly.
It's such a hard pill to swallow sometimes. Especially when you know how much it can help.
Mm-hmm.
and you know how good it is because you've gone through it. But again, you have to remind, or at least for me, I have to remind myself that they won't get as much out of that if it's forced on them.
Correct.
You could put the reminders up and stuff and have little things, but they have to want it. They have to want the help. Otherwise, they're going to get not even half out of it of what they could.
It's correct.
And that helped me. That was a lesson that helped me in itself. It's like, okay, I need to pivot how I approach people sometimes, and how I present myself and my material. As a coach, as a business owner, as a friend, as a spouse, whoever. So even when you're the teacher, like the old saying goes, the one who learns the most is the teacher.
Correct.
So thank you for bringing that up. Let's talk for a minute about the process of writing the book. You mentioned it was through a Facebook challenge, but what was it like working with Brian? You're busy. You got your work. You got the supply chain stuff. You got your employees that are needing help. You've got this and this and this going on. I can't write a book. I don't have time. Who am I to do it? What am I going to say? Blah, 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 blah. Kind of what was that process and what kept you going?
Good questions. The process was very slow. I wanted to write the book. I knew I needed to write the book. I happened to be a coach in an organization where all the coaches need to have published books. And I, at the time, was the only one without the published book. So I had that hanging over my head. And then I got the book done. The book, I think, was completely written in July of 20, I get my years mixed up, 2021. And I read it, tried to fix it, read it. That's when I started having imposter syndrome. That's when I started feeling like, oh, is this good enough? Is it enough? Is it enough? Will people like it? Will people not like it? And I finally had to get out of my own head and go with the mindset of imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And finally got the thing published in February, I believe, of this year. And now I read it and I'm like, wow, it's well done. I mean, I had read it a million times prior to that, trying to make it better and perfect. And could it be better? Hindsight's 2020, man. There's always more we want to do. The people who've read it that I know, like, and trust, that aren't just part of my current circle, but even part of when I was in high school and college, are like, wow, this is a nicely written, simple. I wanted it to be simple and short, to the point, and helpful book. And that's what matters, is to have an impact. For me, that's what matters, is to have impact on others in a positive manner. The thing that got me to the finish line was not the deadline that I had for me, but was the deadline that I had from my peers, because I was the only coach at that point that didn't have the book done. And I would highly suggest that if you're trying to do any type of big project, if it's only you that you have to report to, sometimes that doesn't work. So maybe have an outside trusted source that will give you that extra little nudge or that need to get the book done, or whatever project it happens to be. But in my case, the book.
Yeah, having some accountability outside yourself.
Correct.
Because that's what's helping me drive my book and get that going. And it's like, oh, I told these people I have this milestone done by this time, and so it's amazing how a little bit of pressure can go a long way.
Huge.
When applied correctly. So, and it's also awesome. This was another lesson I've learned the hard way. Is I used to think and believe kind of do it myself and save a little money. I could do that myself and save $500 or whatever, or I don't need to hire Brian because I can write it myself. When in reality, I may save the $500 or whatever the number is. I'm just throwing a number out there, but it's not going to turn out as well. It's not going to have the impact that it should, and it's going to cause a lot more time consuming. It's going to be more frustrating for me, and on and on and on. Versus if I connected with people and that's what they do, book writing or landscaping or whatever. I often use the analogy, I could save $50 and mow my own lawn, but I can earn, again, just throwing numbers out here, $200 in that same time doing what I do best. And then the lawn will turn out better. It's going to help that person get paid and build their business. And it's a win-win-win when you're connected with the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge lesson. Like you said, work smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. Hours does not mean you're productive.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and that's another thing. Busyness does not equal productivity.
Nope.
But and I love how you pointed out how some things come out of simple things like a Facebook challenge, or simple things like that, turning into huge things. And it's another example of how great opportunities can come about where you least expect them. again, running into you, meeting you, connecting with you. Sorry, I'm just trying to find that one sentence that you said here. I really liked. I loved how you put in there why I'm reading this book. Because that gives out, like we discussed before, why you had to do it. Why, even if it sat on the shelf and nobody bought it, why did Lori have to write this book? I'm doing this for me, and it's such a big impact, and it's such a big sense of accomplishment, even if it never goes beyond your own computer or your own bookshelf, if you will. It's that sense of accomplishment. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly what you said. It's besides being this sense of accomplishment, when you promise yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, you're actually training yourself that you don't have to have follow through in what you say you're going to do. When you have follow through in what you say you're going to do, you're training yourself to have follow through in what you say you're going to do. And therefore, you're much more accomplished. You get things done. You're more respected. People know that they can trust you because they know that, hey, Kenny said that he was going to write this book. He did. That's impressive, especially writing a book. Like, I took it for granted that I wrote the book because the majority of my circle has written a book. In my current circle, like the people in my life professionally all the time right now. So a few years ago, when I lived in California, I've recently moved to Texas. I was in a networking group where it was a book club, and we studied business books once on Friday mornings. Well, that club reached out to me and said, "Hey, we bought your book. Your book is our next book that we're going to read." And I was like, "Wow, that's so cool!" Like it so. And then they said, "This is just awesome that somebody did that out of our group." And I'm thinking, it's just normal. It's just what I do. But the person I was talking to, she was an attorney. She's like, "No, Lori, this is a big deal." And then I started researching it. Not very many people are published authors. Like, it is a big deal. And so that you also get that sense of accomplishment, and that, I don't want to say it's self-worth, but the pleasure of saying, "Gosh, I've tackled this goal, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that." And I give yourself a pat on the back. I think a lot of us don't pat ourselves on the back enough. We're so busy trying to improve. We forget to take a minute and appreciate everything that we do for ourselves and for others.
Absolutely. And then that brings up another mindset thing. If I pat myself on the back too much, and I'm a show off, or I'm flaunting, or I'm bragging, and blah blah blah. And so we minimize it, and we scrutinize ourselves. We become our worst enemy again. And what will they think if I post it on Facebook that I wrote it, or what are they gonna think if I talk about it more than once or more than twice? And who cares? So what?
Exactly.
I wrote a chapter in this collaboration, and I'm talking about it still, and I'm talking about it to everyone, and I'm still posting about it. It's still on my website. I'm proud of the dang thing, It's like, look what I did, yay! Kind of thing, I'm like a 5-year-old with brag about it, in a respectful manner and stuff, If I'm proud of it, if it helps me, I'm gonna talk about it, and I know it's going to help someone get their message out. And I'm not just talking about me, but Brian and everyone else here, and your book, and so it not just helps me, but it helps others, and it's I'm also doing it as an example to my son. If Dad can do this, I can do it. Because like you said, if you don't keep promises to yourself, if I don't keep promises that I made to myself, what's my son going to grow up doing? What example is he going to follow? And that's a bigger thing for me, is who's watching me? What example am I setting for them? And I think about the example that I've been before, and I don't like some of those versions. I don't want that. I want to be the version, I want to be the example that I would be proud of following. So writing that book is a big deal. Keeping those promises is a huge deal. And one of the things we talked about off camera to segue over to that is, you mentioned it's never too late to be the best version of you.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, let's talk about that for a minute. And
you just touched on it a little when you were saying you're trying to be the best version for your son, and you're not happy with previous versions of yourself. You're not particularly in love with who you used to be, but you're very proud of where you're going and who you're becoming to be the best version, to be the example for your son, to be a better husband, to be a better business partner or business owner, leader, mentor, coach. And those are the things. Every day we have the opportunity to learn or to stay stagnant. And honestly, most people stay stagnant because it's easier. It's comfortable. It's comfortable to just get through each day. At the end of the day, for me, I'm not judging anyone else. Everybody runs their own path. But for me, I want to continually improve, continually grow. I think that the mindset I've had has only been the shift. I've always done personal development, but I had the massive shift in the last 10 years, and I work on it daily. I've invested an enormous amount of time and money into personal development for myself and to help others. And it's been worth every single minute and every single dollar, because at the end of the day, your mindset controls everything in your life. I was on a podcast when we were discussing business, and the host said, "What's the hardest part about owning a business or business in general?" And I said, "No one's going to like this answer, but it's your mind, because that's what nobody wants to touch, because that's a lot of deep work. Like, you have to look at yourself and say, like you just did, you weren't happy with previous versions of yourself. Therefore, you made improvements to have more personal integrity and respect." And that's not easy for any of us, because it's really uncomfortable, and nobody likes to be uncomfortable, myself included. I've just trained myself that it's a part of life.
Yeah. And nobody, again, I can't speak for everybody, but from what I've talked about or from what I've heard, nobody wants to admit that, they were, didn't know the best way or whatever. Nobody wants to admit that they messed up back here.
Mm-hmm.
It's uncomfortable admitting that you weren't the best version of you, or you weren't doing it the way that you should have, kind of thing. Or it's uncomfortable to admit that you need help, you need to improve.
Mm.
It was uncomfortable when I first started getting some mentoring myself, and asking for help, and it's uncomfortable getting out of your comfort zone. Very.
Very. That's true.
I've been doing this for a year, and I'm still uncomfortable on the camera sometimes.
But you're doing the work, and that's all that matters.
I have some major imposter syndrome right now, because I'm like, who am I? Well, not even a published author fully, talking to someone that's got a book out and la-di-da. Who am I to even talk to Lori Rehn? So there's a lot of that still going on in my mind, and but but yeah, and I love how you said invest in yourself. I used to think about, like, when a coaching program, oh, that's money gone, that's money lost, or spending money on the going to this event and the hotel and the gas and the food. This event's going to cost blah blah blah. But when I started looking at it as an investment versus a cost, it made a huge difference in the mindset shift, and I got a whole lot more out of those events and those trainings and mentorship. Or this book cost me $20. No, it was an investment of $20, and I learned far more value than the dollar amount I paid. So when you shift those simple things, and you, like you mentioned earlier, work on those daily, little by little, it makes a huge impact. It makes a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point in shifting the mindset and from cost over to investment. It's an investment when you do the work that is suggested and outlined from your mentor, from your class, from this seminar, from reading a book. If you just go to all the, there's lots of people out there who do this. They go from seminar to seminar to seminar. They follow all the different influencers, but they don't put in the work after to get the results. And that's where people, I think, start thinking of anything that they're investing in as a cost, because they aren't seeing the benefit, because they aren't doing the work. And doing the work is the hard part. Like it's kind of like the busy, you could be busy. Busy doesn't equal productive. Same thing. Exactly. It's just you're putting your money there.
Yeah. And being willing to do the work, is an uncomfortable growth process in itself. All right. But yeah, and it's such a huge improvement when you do the work, and also when you do it at your pace, so to speak, and not, well, how come you're done already? Or they did it so much faster, or they're seeing results in 2 days and it took me 6 weeks to see results, and blah, blah, blah. It's not a comparison. It's not a contest in that respect. Everybody's going to learn an approach that they may excel faster in one area and you may excel faster in the other. But if you're growing and learning, then you're on the right track.
Exactly. And you also bring up a really good point of comparing yourself to others. We can't help ourselves. That's human nature. And it's a good idea to stop doing that, because what you're going through in your life, the challenges you may or may not be facing with work, with family, are not the same as what anybody else is going through. And social media, I think, doesn't help sometimes, because that's always the highlight reel. And you think, oh, well, why aren't I doing this? Why aren't I doing that? Just knowing that you are doing the best you can at any moment, and you're making steps forward every day, even if they're tiny, that's a huge win. That is a huge win. And we need to celebrate those things.
Absolutely. Pat yourself on the back again, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, you have a gift of some sort for our guests. Is that correct?
I can, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have books. Yes, I do have books.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned a book, or possibly a coaching call. Or, if we reach out to Lori... correct? Sorry,
That's okay. We set this up so long ago, may have been, but yes, absolutely. Hop on a coaching call. We can just anything mindset, business related is fine. Absolutely.
So yeah, and that's go to our website, LoriRehn.com. A lot of phenomenal things. Is that the best way to get a hold of you, to reach out to you?
It is, or on socials, both Instagram and Facebook is the Lori Rehn, and DM is fine as well. Just make sure they mention your show, Kenny. Otherwise, I'll have no idea how we got connected. And as you grow your audience, there's a lot of people in the DMs on a daily. And so clearly the people that I meet via you, I will reach out to immediately.
So, and like you said, if there's a lot of DMs, so it might take her a minute to get back to you and stuff. So, but Lori, it has been fabulous having you on. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad we connected, and I'm sure we'll connect some more in the future. And anyone else, please reach out to her. She is a phenomenal person to get to know. And if you haven't already, go get this book. Go get it. Go read it. Go study it. Get some highlighters, because you're going to need them, and read it like 100 million times.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that.
Oh,
I appreciate you. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you again, Lori. And everyone watching, thank you so much for being here. And remember to live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore those possibilities.